Areas of game theory that can help you understand the world. In his conversation with Dave Rubin and his brother Eric, Brett Weinstein says that seeing the world through a game theoretic lens gives you a more fundamental understanding of the world. When asked later about the parts of game theory he'd recommend learning, he listed 7. In this post I'd like to give a brief overview of each and link to more resources if you'd like to explore the ideas further. Prisoner's dilemma. The prisoner's dilemma is a hypothetical situation in which there are two prisoners, call them prisoner A and B, and they have no way of communicating. They are each given the following offer. If they each betray the other, then they will each get 10 years in prison. If prisoner A betrays prisoner B, then prisoner A goes free and prisoner B gets 15 years in prison. The same goes for prisoner B betraying prisoner A. If they both stay silent, then each gets 5 years in prison. Here's a chart to model the situation. You can see that it's in their best interest for each to stay silent, if they could communicate. But since they can't, the rational decision is to betray. This is because the incentives are too great for the other person to betray, meaning the silent person would get the longest sentence. This video explains it more in depth. Race to the bottom. A race to the bottom occurs when states, or other entities, lower regulations or taxes on an industry in an effort to attract financial interests from that industry. States might compete with each other in deregulation, thus making it cheaper to do business there, until the given industry faces little or no regulation from the government. It isn't always state to state, however. It can be any situation in which entities in a given geographic region compete for business through deregulation, lower taxes, etc. Free trade is another example of this, where the competing entities are countries. It's easy to see the negative repercussions of this situation. Consider lowering environmental regulations on energy companies, relaxing labor laws, like those pertaining to working conditions, for example, lowering minimum wages, or loss of tax revenue, and how those things would impact the citizenry of the state. Free rider problem/tragedy of the commons. This idea is fairly easily summarized by the following thought experiment. Suppose that you live in a village of sheep herders and there's a common area where anyone can let their sheep graze. Now, if everyone is mindful of the scarcity of the resource, then each would be careful to only let a limited number of their animals graze for a limited amount of time. However, a rational agent might decide that if he lets only his animals overgraze, it might not be noticed by the rest of the community. He could get greater benefit from the resource without an added cost. However, if everyone acts in this way, the outcome is clear. The resource gets overused and will ultimately be used up, thereby not benefiting anyone. This pattern can be seen in countless situations in economics, healthcare, environmental resources, and more. Zero-sum versus non-zero-sum. A zero-sum game is one in which a gain for one player is an equivalent loss for the other player and vice versa. These games are unlike non-zero-sum games because there are no win-win possibilities. There's no enlarging of the proverbial pie. A bigger piece for one person means a smaller piece for another person. Non-zero-sum games are generally better because both sides can benefit from playing. Principal-agent problem.